Hello and welcome to another episode of The Weighing Room, where the three of us are back previewing Saturday's racing at Aintree with the big race of the national season, the 2023 Grand National, and that is the feature race of the afternoon and the complete jump season. We can't wait for it and we can't wait to speak through it. We all put up 2 or 3 selections that we'll go through at the end of the show. Frankie, some more modelling this week, but it looks like you're at Aintree now.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of being James Bond this week. It was like a Wish version of James Bond on Wednesday. So, yeah, it was a lot. There was a nice Aston Martin DBS on site, but they didn't even trust us to leave the keys. The fella went off for the day and took the keys. So, for all that posing, I didn't get to drive it and I barely got to sit in it. But, yeah, well, we're where it matters now. Look, we're on course. We're ready to go.
Yeah, where it matters. And obviously yesterday was some great action. We're recording Friday morning ahead of Saturday. Paul, you're the man to speak to, really. Obviously ridden in the National, 5th place finish, your best finish. What does the Grand National mean to you? Obviously, because we were talking about the Irish National, weren't we, last week, which is big.
Yeah.
But this race itself's got to be huge for you as well.
Yeah, it's massive. It's different, like the whole build up to it. It's a lot more relaxed than Cheltenham will say. The fences are different. I know they've been modified and they are a lot softer, but they do still take a bit of jump and they look different. You know, it's up to the horses. It's the third fence on the course is the biggest, I think. I might measure the biggest, but it just looks back at you. It doesn't matter where you approach the fence. It's a big ditch, and it's only the third fence, and a lot of jocks will know their fate on the landing side of that third fence. I know, Frankie, you're there at the minute. If you get a chance to have a walk out on track, if you actually look at the line of fences, you'll see about three or four horses' widths off the inside rail, where the ground has been kicked up to the takeoff board. That's where the fences are smaller, and if you can get on that strip, you're not jumping as high. You're not using as much energy to jump, and that's where a lot of winners. You notice yesterday, I think the first and second in the Fox Hunters would have gone that route for the majority of the race. So, Bar Beecher's Brook, if you're going out the outside, you might as well go smack down the inner, because there's big on the outside as they are down the inside, and you'll get as much light down there as you will out wide. But it's set to be a cracker.
Yeah, it is going to be an absolutely top-class race. And I think the race has changed, really, over the last few years. You see more classier horses go for the race. But we'll discuss that later on the show. We're going to start by going through the first race on the Saturday from Aintree, and it is the Grade 1 Maghull Novices Chase, over 2 miles. I think we can keep this short and sweet, can't we, Jed? It's John Bond, top of the market, 1-2. Frankie, he just goes and wins, doesn't he?
Yep, penalty kick for John Bond, I think. Yes, he was slightly disappointed in if you were backing him at the festival anyway. Alfabiolo was superior, but there's nothing in the field that's anywhere near that, in my opinion. So, yeah, he's short, he should win. And to be honest, probably be boring and say the second favourite will follow him home. Not long till May. I know that Turner's form isn't that strong. Stage Star was beat and a couple in behind. You know, maybe it wasn't the best Turners that we thought it might be, but I do still think that form's above the rest. The 1-2 in the market for me, pretty boring.
Yeah, I don't want to put a downer on what's going to be a great day at Aintree, but this is probably the worst Grade 1 I've ever seen. Like, it's absolutely dreadful. Like, John Bond in this race is far superior to anything else in the race. Like, nothing, not going against any of the other horses, but they're not really, not long till May, he's a good horse, but if you go and shove it against the Irish horses, let's say, it's no comparison, is it? So you see a lot of horses in this race, I think, just making up the numbers, and John Bond at 1-2. Look, there's not much value in any 1-2 shot, but it surely can't lose, can he? If he jumps properly and goes on to 50. I haven't got another selection in the race apart from John Bond. I just think that goes and wins. Paul, I think you do though, don't you?
Yeah, if I was having a bet in the race, I'd probably go with the forecast. I don't think Banbridge will run, but I think Calico, the horse of Dan Skelton's that followed, there was only the 2-horse race. He got within 5.5 lengths of John Bond when they clashed at Warwick earlier in the season. I think the Skelton team will opt to drop out the back and maybe ride to finish second, or ride to come late and nick a bit of prize money. So on the anticipation of that he'll be dropped out last and come with a late rattle, Calico to follow John Bond home.
Yeah, you can get 16s about Calico each way. I'm not sure what the forecast pays, but I think you're right. Badbridge won't run, having won on the first day. So yeah, that's the opener all covered. We're going to move on to the 225, and that is the first handicap of the day. It's the Village Hotels Handicap Hurdle over 3 miles and half a furlong. These handicaps are always tricky, Paul, from a punting perspective, but who have you gone for?
Yeah, there's plenty of each way value here. See Henry Daly as a runner in it in Moon Hunter, but I've actually gone with Henry's Friend for Keelan Woods and Ben Pauling. Henry's Friend ran out a comfortable winner of a Novices Hurdle at Doncaster last time out. That was on the back of a short break. Looking through his 5 starts, he finished runner up in a grade 2 at Sandown back in December. Step up to 3 miles is a bit of an unknown, as is the big field sizes. The most runners, I think, the most rivals he's ever faced is 7. So that's going to be interesting to see how Henry's Friends will handle that. But, he's a 6-year-old. He's only had the 5 starts. There should be more to come. He was a good winner last time out. He has a handy weight of 10 stone 9. And I'd be happy to have an each way play on Henry's Friend. That's right up at the 25 to 1 mark.
Yeah, Henry's Friend. If he can't be trained by Henry Daly, at least go for a horse's name. Henry. Henry's Friend, 25 to 1. Yeah, nice each way price. Frankie, for you in this one?
Yeah, you see me on the move. The rain's coming down, so I've just gone for cover. On Toya for John Joe O'Neill and John Joe Jr., I'm sure will ride. I'm guessing if you're in the same camp, you also fancied him as well, didn't you, for Cheltenham, or thought he had a chance anyway? And I think we both said the same, that he looked well handicapped. The ground would probably go against him. He finished a decent 6th, 6th, but only 4.5 lengths back on ground which I don't think suited. Now, fingers crossed, and I just said the rain's coming down, but it's not awful. Fingers crossed it's going to be ground that will suit him better. And he remains fairly well handicapped as a result of coming 6th, and a couple of others in here, the Favourite and the Henderson horse, have both been put up as a result of finishing in front of him at Cheltenham. So I think that with conditions to suit and the fact that he is now even better off at the weights, he's got to have a decent chance for me. So on Toya for the John Joes.
Absolutely bang with you, Frankie. Yeah, I was all over this for the Thames. I was actually all over Shoot First in the race, but obviously that got pulled out. But I think the form with Shoot First from that October meeting at Cheltenham is some seriously strong form, because I think Shoot First had a load in hand that down with a cracker in the Thames. But you're right, he was only £3 high off 139, wasn't he, in the Thames, finishing 6th, not far behind the winner at all, who came up the inside. Obviously, there's differentiation in the weights with them two now. And I think you're right. I think it'd be lovely good to soft ground on the Saturday. Maybe even good in places, but we'll see what rain comes. But I think you bang on. I think that he'll prefer this ground, and I think off the same mark, he's got to be worth another chance, because I still think he's a very well handicapped horse. So I'm with you on that one. Right then, the second grade 1 of the afternoon on Saturday is the Mersey Novices Hurdle over 2 mile 4. We've got Hermes Alden at the top of the mark and looking for it on a bit of a redemption mission of 4 to 1. Dart Raven 9 to 2 for Willie Mullins. You Very Well, the Mayor's Novice Hurdle winner at 5 to 1. Irish Pointer 6 to 1 and Springwell Bay 10 to 1 and 12 to 1 bar those. Frankie, we'll start with you on this one. Who are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Irish Point. It's a classic case, and I like to find these sorts of horses at Aintree that have finished behind the best of those that went to Cheltenham that aren't now reopposing. Irish Point finished second to Champ Kylie, who was a good third in the Ballymore. He's got intertwining form with Marine National, and we know how good he was at the festival. So he's been in the mixture throughout the season behind these top-class novices. He has had a go at 2.5 before. That's where he came second, I think, to Champ Kylie, whereas Dark Raven, the other that has that similar sort of intertwining form with the best novices, hasn't. Ground, potentially, you could argue, once it's off with what we've seen so far, but we haven't seen a disappointing run to suggest he won't go on better ground than soft. So I'll take my chance there, and each way price. As I said, Irish Point's been running behind the best novices that aren't going to turn up on Saturday. So a soft each way on Irish Point for me.
Yeah, 6 to 1 in the market. Gordon Elliott, Davy Russell. Paul, who are you siding with in this one?
I've gone with the Gavin Cromwell train. Let's be clear about it. Do I think if none the worse for his run in the Albert Bartlett, which was over 3 miles at the festival, I think he'll take the beating here. He was a good fourth, having raced pretty keen for the majority of that race. They didn't go much of a gallop. I know they flew over the first 1 or 2, but when they settled down, they really slowed things up. Hence, they were quite well bunched throughout the contest. I thought, on the whole, having raced so keen for the majority of the race, and let's be clear about it, did pretty well to finish fourth. I think the drop back to the sharp 2.5 miles will suit, and 12 to 1's a bit of value here for let's be clear about it.
Yeah, 12-1. Let's be clear about it. Nice each way price. You'll find a common theme starting now with some of my selections because I'm splitting my stakes through a lot of races on Saturday afternoon. So I am Dutching this race. I'm starting with Hermes Allen. I'm very forgiving. I'm very forgiving on this podcast, and I'm going to give this lad one more try. I think the better ground will actually help him. I know he performed really well on soft ground at Newbury in the Challow, where he bolted up and beat You Wear It Well that day. Look, You Wear It Well was a really good performer in that mare's Novices, but I still think Hermes Allen's a much better horse, so I can't see her reversing the form with him. And I'm not scared of Dark Raven either. I think Dark Raven's flattered to deceive, really. I think it's a horse it's a nice horse, but not really a solid Grade 1 horse, where I do think Hermes Allen is. And I think if you look back at the Ballymore, he was running an absolutely lovely race before he just clipped the top of the hurdle and the Irish came. So I'm happy to forgive. And 4-1, it's not the worst price in the world. I would like slightly bigger, but I'm going to give another chance to Hermes Allen at the top of the market. I think he can run a solid race. And one at a bigger price for Harry and Dan Skelton is the mare Katira. She's 14s now. She was 20-1 yesterday. She should be backed in a little bit. But if you look at what she's done this season in her 3 runs, she deserves to be in a Grade 1. She started really coming to light when she was 5th of 20 in the Grade 2 Mares bumper at this meeting last season. That was behind Astro Diamond. We know what Astro Diamond's gone on to do. And then she was sent over hurdles this season. She's been beaten on all 3. She started her career over hurdles, over 2 mile at Utoxeter when taking that, when like bolting up, took it extremely well. That was on soft ground. She then went up in trip to 2 mile 4.5 at Huntingdon and won by 13 lengths again. Another really impressive performance. Back down to 2 mile and a half a furlong at Market Raisin last time out. Under a double penalty, she made light work of the field, winning by 19 lengths. So, and that horse has since gone on to win. And in the Huntingdon race, that horse has since gone on to win back in second. So the form stacks up. She's a big price, I think, 14s. I would have preferred 20s. But 14, 16s in the market. I think she's a really, really big each way play, and I think she deserves a chance in this race. So Katira, my each way selection in that Grade 1. Right, the final Grade 1 on this Saturday, and probably the feature Grade 1, is the Liverpool Hurdle that sees the stay-in hurdle division go at it once more. Paul, we got Marie's Rock trying 3 miles for the first time at the top of the market, 4-1. Florin Porter, 9-2. Cider Burley, the winner of the stays and the winner of this race last year, 11-2. Home by the Lee, 6-1. Champ, 8-1. And Dashel Drasher, 8-1. 10-1 bar those. Who caught your eye in this one, Paul? Because it's a tricky one. They're all taking on each other again, aren't they, really?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest I found to kind of try and make head or tail of it. I think this is a race that's going to fall apart. I think all the top and the betting, they've all had a pretty hard time with it recently. If I was going to take one from the top of the market, a tentative nod would go to Dashel Drasher. Be quite a hard race at Cheltenham last time out. So, as a fun bet, I've opted with the Paul Nicholls trained Monmoral. Harry Cobden rides, Sir Alex Ferguson owns. He would love to get a winner here at Liverpool. First time cheek pieces. He hasn't been seen since being beaten by 27 lengths by Jerry Cologne. That was over fences at Sandown back in February. He comes here pretty fresh. And this is his first start over hurdle since finishing second behind Epatante in the Aintree Hurdle at this meeting last year. Like, how many times have we seen it before where horses they've gone over fences. This runs haven't been that bad over fences, but they've reverted back to hurdles and reverted successfully. And who better to have a pop at this than Paul Nicholls? So I think 16-1 Monmoral, a fun each way bet for me.
Yeah, another one on the redemption mission, really, isn't it? Because this horse, he won a Grade 1, didn't he, at this meeting 2 years ago over hurdles. So,
right.
Yeah, I probably just didn't live up to the potential over fence. Even though he ran okay, they probably thought he'd run better. So switching back to hurdles might not be the worst thing in the world. Monmoral 16-1. Frankie, for you in this one?
Same opinion as Paul. I think the race will fall apart. There'll definitely be 1 or 2 from the festival that do stick out their race, but there'll equally be 1 or 2 that fade away. I'm definitely trying to get the favourite beat. I don't know if she is good enough to win this race, whether she stays 3 or not. So I'm definitely taking the favourite on. I might get a bit braver and try and nail down one of the top couple from the festival. But for the moment, meet and greet each way at around 10-1. Has a good bit of form behind Home by the Lee. And I don't know why I'm doubting myself, but I'm sure it's finished second to Blazing Carl as well. both of which were fancied for the stayers. Hasn't gone to Cheltenham, will come here fresh, looks to be improving. Both best RPRs have been posted over 3 miles. So there's a lot of kind of ticks in the box for this horse, and no, may not go and win, but as I said, I'm not brave enough to try and side with one of those horses from the festival. So I'm hoping you'd at least get a bit of place money at tens on meet and greet, and you never know. You're always being with a chance of winning, so.
Yeah, you're following the same path really as Paul there, thinking the race will fall apart. I'm with you to a certain extent. Again, I've touched this race because there's 10 runners. But I was all over Marie's Rock to go over 3 miles for the stayers. So if I abandoned her now and it won, I wouldn't be happy with myself. But she has got to bounce back massively. Like when I was saying about Hermes Allen, I'm a bit more forgiving. And I think if you look throughout Marie's Rock career, she's thrown a bad one in and come back and won next time out. So it's not like other horses when they're throwing a bad race and that's them done for the season. This horse can bounce back. And I think 3 miles will improve her. I really do. If you look what she did in the Real Cool against the lads, it was a great performance first time out. Obviously, we know what she did last season when she won the Mares Hurdle and went on to Punchestown and landed that Grade 1 as well. But I think if you look back at the Mares Hurdle this year, I just don't think anything went right for her. She was never really travelling. Nika de Bumford was always niggling. I just don't think they were happy with her at all. So I'm gonna put a line through that run and think if you look at what the Connections really wanted to do, but the ground didn't go their way. They wanted to go to the stayers. They've got their opportunity to redeem themselves in this one, and I think she'll go very close. I can't have Florin Porter. I can't have Cider Burley. A horse I can have, and I'm going to put up as well, is Home by the Lee, because I put Home by the Lee up for the stayers. I thought he'd run a massive race. I don't think the soft ground went for him at all. I think if you actually look at his form, it's better on yielding, which is probably more good to soft. The problem that this horse had in the Stayers Hurdle was that I think it was on it was coming round. I think he was on the 5th or 6th hurdle, and he smacked it, absolutely smacked it. I don't know how JJ7 stayed on. The race was done for that horse then, and he still rallied on into finish a neck behind Florin Porter back in 5th. So I think if this horse can have a clear round of jumping on better ground, I think he can resume his form, because I think he's a very good horse, and at 6-1, I think he's quite a good price. I think Champ at 8-1, we know he goes well fresh. I know he's 11. I'd watch out for him, but I know it's dangerous to go against Cider Burley, having won this race last year and Florin Porter was second, but I'd rather be on Marie's Rock and Home by the Lee. Again, splitting my stakes in the race with 10 runners. Right then, the next race we're going to cover is the one before the National on Saturday. It's the William Hill Handicap Chase over 3 mile, 1 furlong. Another tricky event to pick through, Frankie. You start us off in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this simple. I probably haven't been that forgiving as we've been talking through the Saturday card for Cheltenham horses, but Nasalam I was all over for the festival. And that was just a horse, I'd say after 2 fences, I was scratching my head. He didn't look like he wanted to race. He wasn't going a yard at all. And, try to get him going, but he never ever ran a race, in my opinion. So, still of the opinion that he'll get 3 miles. I don't think it was a question of he couldn't stay. I just don't think that was his day. So, willing to give him another chance. As other horses we've mentioned, if you do put in a bad run in a handicap, the blessing is at least you remain on the same mark or what I thought was well handicapped. So, he is favourite. He will have to run better than he did at Cheltenham, but provided he gets going, I'm sure this horse gets 3 miles. I'm sure he's well handicapped, and I'm sticking with Nasalam.
Yeah, Nasalam 6-1 at the top of the market. And Gary Moore, he's absolutely flying, isn't he? 41% strike rate in the last 2 weeks. Very unlucky with Beau Zenith. He just can't have a juvenile Grade 1 winner, can he? He just can't have it. He's very, very unlucky. So, Nasalam for yourself. Paul, who are you going for?
I've gone with Shake 'em Up Harry for Luca Morgan and another from the Ben Pauling stable. Shake 'em Up Harry, another who maybe hasn't fulfilled the promise he showed in his younger days. He was well thought of as a young horse, in his novice hurdle days. He finished second, well beaten second, behind Shishkin in a novice hurdle at Newbury before Shishkin went on and won the Supreme. Shake 'em Up Harry himself ran a cracker to finish third in the plate behind Seddon when last seen. He was beaten a little over 5 lengths by the winner. I think if he reproduces that run, he can go close. It's not a race that I'd be getting stuck into, but yeah, if I had to decide, I'm going to stick with that Footballing team and stick with Harry Redknapp's runner, Shake 'em Up Harry.
Yeah, again, I've judged this race, and Shaker Mapari is one of them, Paul. I think he's got an absolutely great chance. If you look what he's done this season, and I still think he's well handicapped off a marker 140. You're right, that run last time out behind Seddon was a really, really good run, wasn't it, at Cheltenham? That was off a marker 139. He's only really gone up a pound for that. Fugitive's obviously in there, that's going to run in a grade 1. So that form could really, really stack up. And I just think Shaker Mapari, even though he's 9, I actually still think he's improving this season. If you look at what he's run at Cheltenham as well, when 5th, he was running a great race just before fading. And his win at Exeter up 134 was a brilliant jumping performance. So he's got it in his locker to land one of these handicaps. And what's his price now? 15-2. I think that's fair. So I think Shaker Mapari's got a really, really good chance. And I think just one below it, 8-1, for Nigel Twiston-Davies, Beauport, I think has got a really good chance as well. I'm a massive fan of the Kim Muir form, to be honest. And I know Stumptown and Angels Dawn didn't really do it any justice in the Irish National. But the Irish National's an Irish National, not the Grand National. You've got to take the form with a pinch of salt, because how Iron Maximus won that day, I'll never know from that position. But Angels Dawn still ran on, I think, into 6th and 7th. But if you look at Beauport in this race, he finished 9th. But he actually didn't finish too far behind the leaders. He just didn't really get involved. If you look throughout this season, he ran over 2 mile 4 at Carlisle in the Colin Parker Memorial listed race. It was a great performance, that was. Then again, he's been ran this season again. I think he finished 2nd behind Ballygriffin Cottage, who I thought was actually a really nice jumper that day. And he was giving away, I think, £8 to Ballygriffin Cottage, so he never really had a chance. He was then 4th in the Dipper over 2 mile 4. That was behind the Real Whacker. Obviously, Monmoral Thunder Rocker in there as well. And I just think that trip might be too short for him now. Obviously, he stepped up to 3 mile 2 in that Kim Muir. I think that's exactly what he wants. That was off 143. He now runs off a pound lower, 142. I'm happy to take another chance on Beauport, because I still think there is a big handicap in him for Nigel Twiston-Davies. So they're my selections in that one. Right then, gents, it's the big one. It's the 2023 Grand National. 40 runners running to the first fence. What a race this is. And this season, like I mentioned at the top of the show, it's got just an abundance of class in the field. We've got Noble Yates, who heads the market, 9-1. Joint with Delta Work, a Grade 1 winner, 9-1. Corrit Rambler now pushed out to 9-1. That's becoming a bit of a bigger price than what he was. Longhouse Poet, 14s. Guy de Manil, 14s. Lamilos, 14s. Ain't That a Shame, 14s. Mr. Incredible, 14s. And 16-1 bar those. So this race is where a lot of people who aren't watching racing will come and have their £1 each ways and might pick it for the silks or the name. But we've got to put a more analytical view of this, hopefully. But I know you've got to have a few stabs at the race. So, Paul, we'll start with you on this one. How many horses are you going for, and who are you going for?
Yeah, well, I've gone with 3, James. I've narrowed it down to 3, and it'll probably sicken me backside, to say the least. Like, as you said, we go through the form and whatnot. I live in a house where no one really follows horse racing, so the likelihood of the winner coming from in the household and not from me is probably pretty good, I think, to be honest. And yeah, that'll be enough to stick in my happiness now this Saturday afternoon, probably. But yeah, I've gone with Corrit Rambler. He's my idea of the winner. I think he'd probably go off around about the 12-1 mark. He won't go off any shorter than 9s. I was seeing 6-1 at the beginning of the week. I thought was a bit crazy now for a 40-runner handicap. But he is my idea of the winner, providing Derek Fox gets the all clear. I think he's a horse that needs Foxy. I think he needs someone that knows him. He has his quirks and whatnot. I think he'll either love it or hate it. I don't think there'll be any in between. I don't think he'll travel for a circuit and go, geez, oh yeah, he was going all right. I think on the landing side of the third fence, Corrit Rambler will either say yes, loving it, or this is not for me. He's got a nice handy weight of 10-5. Connections know what it's like to win a Grand National. Derek's got a good record around the fences. And yeah, he's my idea of the winner, Corrit Rambler. Like I said, I could see him going off around about the 12-1 mark. He's 9-1 at the moment. I got to go for Vanillier. He's a horse that I've tipped up plenty of times on the podcast before. Sean Flanagan has a good record over the fences. I know he hasn't ridden a winner, but he rode a big price horse, and I think within the last 10 or 15 years maybe. And I think it was about 100, 200 to 1 in the Grand National. He led them for about a second and a half, and he gave them a real bold side out in front. So Sean's pretty good over these fences. Again, Vanilla has a nice handy weight of 10 stone 6 and was second in the Bobby Joe Chase at Fairyhouse, which is used as a prep run for Aintree. So Vanilla is right about the 20-1 mark. And Fortescue, each way, 66-1. He unseated rider last year at 4 out. First time blinkers I'm not overly keen on. I think the Grand National, there's going to be enough happening down at the start. And I know that backfired on horse Billy Fond, I think, ran the National League blinkers on him. And I know the crowds and the noise and whatnot, I think he kind of got a little bit overwhelmed maybe. So I wouldn't be overly keen on that. But I think if the blinkers work and Fortescue, I thought his winning chance was gone, but I thought he may have stayed on for a place when he came down 4 out. He was just starting to plug on. So I think with a clear round, if the first time blinkers work, 10 stone 2, 66-1, I think Fortescue is worth a small each way wager.
If you wouldn't have put Fortescue up, I'd have slept out, because Henry you had to put him up. No, some really good selections there. 9-1, 20-1, and 66-1. So a split throughout the field, and obviously we've seen bigger price winners of this race. Frankie, who are your selections in the 2023 Grand National?
Starting with the favourite, unfortunately. He hasn't been favourite all week, but as we look at it now, Daft to Work is. So, but you know, for the reasons of, I can't quite understand. He came third last year, and I can't quite understand why. I think he's down £1, isn't he, than last year on ratings, when I think he's had a brilliant season. I was really impressed when he carried a lot of weight in the handicap version of the cross country in January, and then even more impressed at the festival. You know, him and Galvin went miles clear of anything else, as we expected they would, but they were a long way clear. And I think he did that easier than maybe we first thought. When you're watching it and they're having that battle up the hill, it's close. But when you watch it back, I think Doubt to Work won that race well. So when you put those two together, a great season, plus being down £1, effectively the same mark. Actually has £5 less on his back because of other horses in the race, and has good form round the fences. He just looks solid for me. So Doubt to Work would be number 1. The each-way swing, the big each-way swing, would be carefully selected. I know you're not winning a Grand National off of bumper form, but if you just look at the trajectory of the horse before he had the break, you've got to see that there must be talent there. Second in a champion bumper, then third in a staying hurdle behind Manila, Indo and Allaho, 2 top horses, and then won 3 chase starts on the trot. So at that point, if you stop his career there, you think this horse, you know, is going places. He was odds-on favourite for a Cheltenham Festival, National Hunt Chase, unseated rider there, and then 1,000 days break. For that break and coming back and still running respectably leads me to believe he could be well handicapped. As I said, if you stopped his career before the break, he looked like a smart horse. He's come back and he looks decent enough. I'm hoping there's more talent left in him. So carefully selected is the big each way swing. And Mike O'Sullivan's been booked as well, which is only a positive for me. I think he's a great young jockey. And then one which is like a boring bet, but I just can't see how the place is Any Second Now. If you're getting like 8, 9, 10s, you know, third in the national, second in the national. Yes, he's top weight, but he carried near top of the weights before, and it wasn't a problem. I just think as a place bet, Any Second Now will be in the top 6. Probably get beaten by one that's better handicapped, but will be in the top 6 for me. So yeah, that'll work strong. Carefully selected is the little £1 each way on the 50-1 shot, and Any Second Now to place.
Yeah, lovely stuff. 9-1 about Doubt to Work, 50-1 about Carefully Selected, and Any Second Now you can have 16s. You can have Any Second Now, which is quite.
There we are.
There
we are.
A horse that I think's placed or finished in the top 4 in the last 3 renewals. So
yeah, I'd say that's a solid each way bet.
Yeah, it's just the weight, isn't it? But if he can overcome that, which he has before, he can run a solid race. Right, the 3 I'm going for, and I found it very hard to narrow it down to 3 because I could have about 7. But the 3 I've narrowed it down to. Look, the first one is Mr. Incredible. I would have wanted more soft ground for this horse because he's run well on heavy and soft his last 2. But what has got me on side with this horse is his mark of 145. I think whereas Corrick Rambler's £10 well in, I think this is also very close to being £10 well in. If you look at what this horse has done under Willie Mullins when stepped up in distance, over 3 mile 5 at Warwick in the Grade 3 Classic Chase, that was on heavy ground. He finished a really, really good second. Then went to the Kim Muir and he was ridden out the back by Patrick Mullins, and the way he stayed on that day up the hill to grab third, less than 6 lengths behind Angel's Dawn and Stumptown, was absolutely incredible in my eyes. So I think off what the mark of 145, 14 to 1 in the market, as I said, I would have wanted a little bit more rain. This horse, he's very quirky as well. So just watch at the start with this horse, because you might lose your money before it's even begun, because it needs to go off. It'll go out the back, and it obviously needs some luck when you're ridden like that. The same with Corrit Rambler. That'll be ridden out the back to cruise through like it has in these two Ultimas. But Mr. Incredible, I think, he's well in at 14 to 1s in each way play. At the same price for the same trainer, Gaia Dumanil, I think it's a class act in the field. I can't understand it compared to some horses, his mark of 155. This horse has shown that he definitely stays the trip on 2 occasions now, when third in the Irish National and winning the National Chase last time out. This horse is a Grade 1 winner over hurdles and fences. This is where the race has changed slightly, because he's an absolute class act. Another one who would have wanted a little bit more soft ground. I think if the rain doesn't come today, they will water, and it'll be lovely good to soft ground. So I don't think it'll be a problem. I just think these two horses might have wanted it slightly softer. But what this horse showed to me, even though he might not have won, if the leader in the National Chase wouldn't have fell for John McConnell, but what showed to me is that he stays at 3 miles 6, and he was ridden patiently to see if he stays. I think he'll be ridden differently in the Grand National, because they now know he does stay. Off a mark of 155, he's 13th in the field, so he's getting weight off some of them. 7-year-old won the race last year. I think a 7-year-old can win the race this year, because Gaia Dumanil's a class act in the field for me. Off 11 stone, I think he's got an absolutely massive chance. And one at a bigger price, 50 to 1, I think, in the market as we record, Royal Maghull for Patrick Griffin. This horse, I know he's 11 years of age now, but because he didn't go to the Irish National and he's here off 10 stone 8, I think they really think he's got a really big chance. If you look, this is another one that probably would have wanted him a bit more soft, but has run on good to soft and run to a good level. He had his first run of the season in November, was third in France in the listed Grand Steeple Chase cross country de Campion. That was over 3 mile 3. He finished less than 3 lengths behind the winner that day. Sent to Tremor on New Year's Day in the Grade 3 Sables Chase. He ran a cracker when dropped to 2 mile 6. That was the third place finish behind Manella Indo and Statler, and we know those are certified Grade 1 horses. Stepped back up and trip when last seen at Down Royal. This horse put in another cracking performance. He did fall before that, but he got back on track with this second, and he was behind. He was only 1 1/4 lengths behind Longhouse Poet, giving it £5. So for me, that was a much better trial than what Longhouse Poet is. And when Longhouse Poet's 14 to 1 near the top of the market, and this horse is 50 to 1, it's a no-brainer, is it? This horse actually ran last year in the Liverpool Hurdle. Didn't run any race, but he's ran round Aintree before. So Royal Maghull, 50 to 1. I think he's so much better off at the weights than Longhouse Poet. And off 10 stone 8, even though he's 11, I think he can run a big race for Patrick Griffin. So they're my two, 14 to 1, 14 to 1, and 50 to 1 for the Grand National. Hopefully between us, we've found the winner of the 2023 Grand National. Anyway, we'll finish off this podcast with the final event of the afternoon at Aintree. It's the Grade 2 bumper over 2 mile 1 furlong. This is an absolute minefield, really, isn't it, fellas? Because all the horses, bar a few, have got a 1 next to their name. So, Frankie, finish off the Aintree Festival with a winner.
Yeah, as you said, it's a minefield. We don't know the full story about any of these. And, you know, like as we saw on day 1 of the festival, you can get a runaway winner in these bumpers that nobody expects. So we'll keep it, for all that we like to analyse races, we'll just go in with the colours of 3 Stripe Life, my old mate, Gordon Elliott and Davy Russell on board to sign out Aintree with a winner. Poor left field to round off a good festival for me. Fingers crossed.
Paul Leffield, yeah, 7 to 1 for the Elliott and Russell team. Paul, I think you might be in the same camp, aren't you?
I am. James, I'm in the same camp. I think, Gordon, this might have been plotted for the last number of weeks or what have you. Paul Leffield, two wins from 2 starts, one of which was at a point-to-point. And I'd imagine the team at Callaghan would be pretty keen to send Davy Russell off home from Aintree with a winner. Yeah, definitely. I don't think there'll be a dry eye in the house. Davy Russell signs off with a winner because he's an absolutely superb jockey. I've gone for Centaura for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. Look, the one on
Thursday didn't work out. See You in My Dreams was going out lovely in front, but just faded in the back, and I don't know if it even finished. But this one's just been seen once today at Taunton in March, and it absolutely bolted up by 5 lengths on good to soft ground. He'll get very similar conditions. Look, we don't know how good these horses are. We don't know how good the Willie Mullins are, really. I know Captain Cody was 6th in the bumper, and Blizzard of Oz has now gone favourite 6-1 for Simon and Isaac Swade. So it's a bit of a minefield, this race, but I just thought Paul Nicholls, with his bumper horses this season, have been very, very good. So if they're sending just the one here at the top of the market, I think he's got a very, very good chance. So Centaura for me. Lads, that's all of the races covered on Saturday from Aintree. All I'm going to ask for now is your naps. And Paul, we've got to start with you. 9-1 winner last week. Silky Wilkie absolutely went in. You said catch me if you can, and they couldn't catch it today. So great selection. We'll let you start this week. Here you go.
Let's be clear about it. In the 3 o'clock, I think the drop back to the sharp 2.5 here, fast gallop will suit. Let's be clear about it. 12-1.
Lovely jubbly. 12-1. Frankie, for you.
I've just realised there's our man that rides the bumper winner. Look, he's spotted him behind me. I'm going to go on Toya. I think it's a solid each way bet. As we mentioned, now well handicapped against the others in front of him at the festival. Conditions should suit. John Joe on board. All systems go on Toya in the first handicap of the Saturday.
Lovely stuff. 8-1. I'm going for Marie's Rock in the Liverpool Hurdle. Redemption mission. I know that fade, Frankie, I know, but 4-1. I think she'll improve for the step up in trip. I think you've got to disregard her last run. She's a multiple Grade 1 winning mare I just think she'll improve for the ground and the step up in trip. So Marie's Rock is my nap of the weekend. Gents, thanks as always. What a Saturday of action we've got from Aintree. Hopefully we've found some winners, and hopefully we've found the winner of the Grand National on Saturday. Please be sure to like this video, comment your selections, or your winner of the Grand National below in the comments section, and make sure you subscribe to Winners Enclosure channel with plenty of content to go through. All the best wherever you are back in this weekend. Hopefully you found the winner of the Grand National. Hopefully we have, and thanks for watching.